keep the public option alive in the Senate. Let's turn to Governor Howard Dean, former governor of Vermont, former chairman of the DNC, as well as a former practicing physician, now a consultant to McKenna, Long, and Aldrich, as well as Democracy for America and a contributor to CNBC. And that's a long resume to start with. Good evening, Governor.
Hey, Keith, how are you?
The whip count on the public option by reconciliation, we have it at 22, up by 2 today, 3 since Friday, but many more senators like Russ Feingold, who support the effort, haven't signed the letter. Can we read the tea leaves on this effort yet? The Senate has only been back in session one day.
I actually think it's a little bit... Keith, I think the news is a little better than that, actually, because I actually think the House might put it in, and here's why. It's going to be very hard within the rules of reconciliation to put what the House passed, the public option, in there. If they want a public option, they're probably going to have to use a Medicare expansion. That's a good thing. It's a good compromise. Had it not been for Joe Lieberman's negativity, we would have had the Medicare compromise passed in the Senate with 60 votes. So if they put that fits in reconciliation, it's easier for folks to swallow. I think we can get that out, and I think it may be put in the House.
Do you think the White House is standing behind this, as we just termed it, rate commission, essentially, to drive down costs in lieu of the public option? Is that the sort of bone being thrown out in that direction?
Let me say, no, I don't think the White House is interested in the public option. Let me just say 2 things about this bill. First of all, I think this is an improvement. I think we ought to get this thing passed, but it really does need some form of a public option. I personally believe that Medicare expansion to people under 65 is better. Secondly, we did all these reforms 16 years ago in Vermont, 16 years ago. So we've got 16 years worth of experience. You do not need an individual mandate if you eliminate pre-existing conditions and guaranteed issue. We did that 16 years ago. The insurance market is just fine here. And this rate-setting commission probably won't work. It's good politics. A lot of states have it. It really hasn't. It's not very effective. But there's no harm in doing it. I'm looking forward to a good, strong bill. I'm delighted, frankly, that the President has reintroduced a bill. I do think the President ought to get some credit for coming back and not taking no from the party of no on this one. I'm very, very excited, very pleased that he's come back. I don't like everything about the bill, but I'm really pleased that he's come back and shown these guys that we're not going to quit, because the American people don't want us to quit.
Do you think this is based, to some degree, on the realization that every bit of polling done on this, the individual portions of all major reforms for health care do better than the bill as a whole? In other words, when you explain content to people, their interest in this thing suddenly shoots through the roof.
That's right, and the Republicans have been very effective at basically lying about what's in the bill. All these stories about how it's going to break the budget. You can say it's a $900 billion bill, but it's paid for, and it's going to reduce the deficit by $100 billion. This saves us money because there are increases and a lot of cuts in waste areas, like how much money the insurance companies are getting out of Part D and so forth. So, you know, in the Medicare Advantage. So in the long run, A, I think the White House gets a lot of credit for coming back and not rolling over and playing dead on this. B, I do have some faith in the House, and I think that they will provide in reconciliation a form of a public option, which is what we should have had and what we almost had, and we surely have enough votes for still in the Senate.
Surely you heard Sam Stein's report from his colleagues at Huffington Post that Senator Rockefeller is not in favor of doing this via reconciliation. Does that surprise you, and do you think that's a permanent position?
Well, first of all, I'm very, very fond of Jay Rockefeller, and I think he's a terrific senator, and he's almost always on the right side of issues. But, you know, some of these folks, they have very strong feelings about procedural things. But, you know, if we get 58 or 57 or 56, that'll be enough.
Howard Dean, former governor of Vermont, former head of the DNC. As always, great thanks, Governor.
Thank you.